Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Smallville Meets Krypton. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today. Our guest is Maggie Wilcock, and for those of you who don't know, that's my wife. And so I feel like inviting Maggie to share her perspective is something that is extremely important. Maggie brings to this whole experience a great deal of honesty and understanding that at times has been hard for me. I've gone through a whole roller coaster of emotions in my process and my experience. And I can't wait to talk to other people's spouses and hear other people's spouses' experience, because I think that there's something to be said there. But I hope that you enjoy our conversation and interview as we talk through this whole experience from her perspective. And more importantly, I hope that you appreciate the fact that Maggie's attitude and honesty are some of my absolute favorite traits of her. I always joke about Maggie that she's horrible at lying. She is the worst at lying. Because in most cases, when she tries to lie, she can't hold it for more than 5 minutes, and it cracks me up to watch her. But I hope that as you hear her insight, that it gives you a little bit different perspective on this story, and she'll give you a little bit too teasers to the future and some of the other things that we'll talk about. So enjoy our interview, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. See ya. I'm here with Maggie, and a perspective that I've always wanted to share with all of you, and I feel like is going to be really insightful and helpful. And so I can't wait for you to hear her experience and what she thought as we went through this process. I apologize because I know it seems like every time we do this, everything changes. I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out, so I appreciate your patience. And most importantly, I appreciate Maggie's patience, because she's a willing participant, or maybe not so willing participant in this whole process. But that being said, let's get started. So tell us your name.
Maggie Wilcock.
And Maggie, how did we meet? Or what is your version of how we met?
Oh, why do we have to do this? So we met in St. George.
Okay.
And we both have different stories on how we met. But he came to my apartment, right? Yeah.
This is your version, not mine.
I feel like we just mix our stories up all the time. So he came to my apartment one night. That's where I first saw him. And I didn't think too much of it, but I think I was making cinnamon rolls, and then we always did activities for church, and apparently he asked me if I would do go carve pumpkins or something. I don't ever remember him asking me that ever. So I remember him asking everyone else, but never me. So, yeah. But I guess that didn't matter because we still ended up together. So
that's right.
He came to my apartment, and all my roommates had date books, and he asked me where my date book was, and I was like, I don't have one. I don't date much. And he asked me out on a date. So, and that was it. So
what a romantic story.
I know.
When did you find out that I was adopted?
The same time you did. Well, after, I guess. Are we going to touch on that?
Yeah. When did you find out?
Well, Colby had texted me. I remember being home, and he's like, I got my DNA results, and there's these names don't match. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Because in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know. I just didn't think it could be possible. But when me and Colby were dating, he always joked around I either got switched at birth or something happened because I don't look like my family. And so it's always kind of been this joke, even since like I met him. Like he's always had this feeling like something wasn't right. So
Perfect. And are you mad that our friends knew about it but didn't tell us?
kind of Luke and Jake, because they told me, they're like, we wanted to tell you, we just didn't know how. Because yeah, if someone would have told me, I would have totally just ran and told Colby.
And that's probably why they didn't tell you.
But yeah, I was just like, I just don't know how everyone knew, and we were just like, had no clue. So
Clearly, I was just oblivious because I knew it, but I didn't know it. So I always knew something was up, but apparently I couldn't put two and two together. So
yeah,
you really married a smart one, honey.
yeah, I know.
In one word, describe what finding out felt like for you.
Shocking.
Shocking. Okay, that's a good one. And what's your favorite Weird Al Yankovic song?
I hate Weird Al. Just kidding. I have to say it. Weird Al has always driven me crazy. But one time Weird Al came in concert, and so we got tickets, or I got Colby tickets to go. I think it was like up at the U at Red View Gardens. And he puts on a pretty awesome concert, but his songs still drive me crazy. Very talented guy, but he's not my favorite. Every time a song comes on, I'm like changing it as fast as I can. So
why was finding out that I was adopted such a big deal to you?
Well, it's like life-changing. I think it's like having a kid. It just changes everything. So, I mean, what we thought we knew, like, completely changed.
So now you're a spouse of an adoptee. And if you were to talk to another spouse of an adoptee, what's something you would tell them, or something you would caution them, or just any advice you would give them?
I don't know. That's hard, because I feel like finding out this, I feel like everyone would process it so different. I feel like it's kind of like grief. Like everyone handles it differently. And I feel like for Colby, like he handled it like pretty well. Like if it was me personally, I would be mad, and I don't know, I would be very angry. And so I don't know. I feel like I've just been trying to be like supportive of it. And I don't know, like I was always in his court no matter what. So
excellent. So let's go back to the night I told you. What do you remember about that night?
So I remember I was at dinner, and so like we had talked about it, and I remember him getting home from work and going through like his phone and showing me names, and then I was like, well, I'm going to dinner, and like didn't think too much of it. Like I had mentioned it to my friend, like, hey, there's a chance like Colby may be adopted. But we went to dinner. I came home, and I remember Colby.
Whoa, back up. So when I did come home from work, and you were still home.
Yeah.
And so we looked at my results then.
Yeah.
And
just for a minute.
It was after you went to dinner that I made the phone call to Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't there for that.
Okay.
So I went to dinner, and I didn't get home till like 9:30, 10 almost. So like usually some of the people that are here were gone. So I remember just walking in, and Colby was just sitting at the counter, and he's like, I'm adopted. And I was like, what? And then he goes on to tell me like what happened with Luke. And I was like, oh my gosh. But like, still, I was just like, this can't be real. Like we thought Luke was just joking. Like, I'm like, Luke's kind of a jokester. Who knows? But we were just like, I remember just sitting on the couch, and Colby, I think, texting his cousin, just asking, like, because we were just like, we got to figure this out or see if it's like real, like before we jump to like any like conclusions. But so
I love that because you while you and I were like making fun of Luke as being a jokester, at the same time Luke's at dinner with Michelle going, I think things went pretty well. And
yeah.
So he's thinking that he told the truth, and that we're all just on this path, and we're over here thinking, no, Luke's probably crazy. I don't think he was telling the truth.
Yeah, but I remember it just being a very long night. Like, what if this is real? And I remember going to bed that night, and like sitting in bed, and Colby walking across our room, and he's like, I'm freaking adopted. Like it was like, okay, like I guess this is possible, but like it was crazy. It was a crazy night. Just lots of like unknown. So
Yeah, very crazy is a very good term. So why is this such a shock to you?
because I don't, it's a shock because it's life changing. Like what, like our whole marriage in a way, like from like his adopted family has been based on a lie. Like I feel like I married into a family who's been lying to me the whole time. Like, and so later on too, when we were doing IVF, we had to fill out like a bunch of medical history to start this process of IVF, of having kids, and everything we were writing for Colby was just a lie. Like nothing was true. And then I was like, it was the same way for his mission papers. Like nothing was true. Like no one stepped in and said, okay, actually. And so that's why it was so shocking, because I just don't see how someone could do that. But
Excellent. Okay. All right. What experience do we have with people that have had adoption or been a part of adoption, either adopted kids of their own or they're adopted or anything like that? Can you think of any?
well, Reagan,
Okay.
like,
And that was a good experience,
yeah,
right?
like
That's a
she's
good
like, yeah,
experience.
she had a good experience. And then like a coworker you worked with
Mm-hmm.
had adopted, and he's had a great experience.
Oh,
I
that's
think.
right. Yeah.
And so like I haven't like seen anything like negative like with adoption. So
Well, and if you remember, there was a short time in which when we were trying to have kids of our own, we thought about adoption.
mhm.
What was some of your thoughts back then about adoption, if you remember?
So when we struggled with our infertility, like we had considered adoption, and I remember I actually wrote Colby like a letter for his birthday saying like, my birthday gift to you is like, let's adopt, like let's do this, because we just, it had been so many years. And so, and I think I gave that to you like at Disneyland. We were at Disneyland, and I gave that to him. And so we were like, I was like excited, because I was like, finally, we're like going to move forward and stuff. And then we started digging in. It's like, you got to meet with this people and do this. And I just felt so overwhelmed. I'm like, why do I have to prove that I'm going to be a good mom when other people are just getting pregnant and, you know, they don't have to go through that whole process? And I remember, like, I think I was like at a store. I don't think, were you with me? I don't know. I remember just sitting on a couch, just bawling. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this adoption stuff. It's just too much. Like, why do I have to prove like that I'm fit to be a good mom? I know I'm going to be a good mom. And so I was just frustrated by that. And so we kind of like stopped in a way. We just stopped altogether. But
yeah, I didn't even think about that letter, but now that you mention it, I totally remember that. And I remember how excited we both were of like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And we were motivated, and I had friends willing to do all kinds of things to help us with that process. And so we were like gung ho on it. And then, yeah, the more we dug into it, the more we realized, God, it just feels overwhelming. And it feels like we have to prove ourselves so much when other people can just, you know, go out and get pregnant and give up a baby. And I don't know, it just felt wrong to us. And I think that just like we talk about so much in this, is that this is such a personal experience, and people choosing to adopt is such a personal experience. And some people, I think, they're wired to do it well. And some people maybe not, but in our case, I just don't think it was a good fit for us.
yeah, I just don't think it was right. So other things came up, and it just wasn't for us.
What was the biggest fear that you had when it comes to adopting a child?
Like if we were going to adopt?
Yeah, like what was the biggest fear you had?
Kind of like, I don't know, just that child loving us, I guess. And because I feel like, yeah, as kids get older and they want to go find out. And so just that fear of like them leaving. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think about that a lot, because I remember there on my mission, there was someone who she had adopted, and as her daughter got older, she wanted to find her birth family, and it was really hard. It was a really hard thing to accept and really hard thing to deal with. And it wasn't because she didn't know she was adopted. It's just that she was ready to find her family, and she was afraid, and this mom was afraid she was going to lose her daughter, and she didn't. But that was something that we were afraid of. That's something that we were really nervous about, was like, what if this child grows up and then doesn't want anything to do with us?
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to people who have dealt with adoption or been part of adoption. And I think there's some people who they live in fear that way, but then other people, they recognize that that's the role they play, is that they're kind of like this is where they stay for a time, and then they may go find their family.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that's not something we were comfortable with. And I'm glad that we recognized that early on, because it would be so sad if a child came into our lives and we were so dependent on that child, instead of recognizing that child needs to progress and grow and things like that. So,
yeah.
But would you say there's anything different about me after I found out I was adopted? Like, did I change? Did I become violent or angry?
So crazy. No, I feel like it was relief. Because I think Colby's just had this feeling for so long, and I remember him, and I don't know if you're going to touch on this later, but Colby would go to lunch with his adopted mom at least once a month, and even his dad. And I remember Colby just coming home just feeling like defeated and super just down, and I'd be like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I tried to explain to my mom, I just don't feel like I fit in. I feel like there's just something like that's wrong with me. Like, he just like would beat himself up thinking something's wrong with me, I just can't connect to my family. Like, it was really hard on Colby. And I don't think people like ever like see that side of him, but he really would just beat himself up because he just wants to be friends with everyone and make everyone happy. And he just felt like, why can't I like connect with this, like my family? And so it was super hard to watch. Like, he would come home from those lunches and it was just super like frustrating, like for both of us. Because he was giving it his all and he was trying to find ways to connect, and his mom would just say other things, and which were lies. And so it was frustrating, like looking back, like she had every opportunity to like say, actually, okay, this is why you're feeling this way, and she never did. So
that's probably the hardest thing about this process, because as I think about those discussions and those feelings, almost anybody I would talk to, I would go through this emotion or this experience of sharing with them like what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, because I don't feel connected to my adopted family. And occasionally I'd get people who are like, oh yeah, I feel so frustrated with my family, or I just feel like, and I'm like, it's not that I feel frustrated, it's that I don't feel connected to them. And no one could understand it. No one got it. And I just felt like I was alone. I felt like I was, something was wrong with me,
like a bad son. But
yeah. And so I'm glad you shared that. I appreciate you bringing that up. On the day I interviewed my parents, let's go to that point. So this is the next day. We haven't moved too far. The next day, we get that confirmation from my cousin. We know that I'm adopted, and I decide to go and talk to my mom about it and kind of confront her about it. What did you think as I was heading there to talk to her?
Well, at first he wasn't sure he wanted to like go. Like, we were trying to figure out like what's the next best step, or what should we do? And so I remember I was taking Calvin outside to the playground, and he called. He's like, I'm on the way to my mom's. And I was like, okay, like he's doing this, like, and I was just like, oh, I wanted so badly to be a fly on the wall. Like, I just wanted to be there to like see what they were going to say and their reasons behind it. And so it was super hard. Like, I was just like looking at my phone constantly being like, you gotta text me something. You gotta text me something. like you're killing me. Like, oh man, because I just wanted to know what was happening. So
in hindsight, as I think about that day too, I feel bad because I really should have just made arrangements for Cal to go with someone and you to come with me, because I'm so bad at like remembering to ask certain questions or ask certain things, and I was in such a state of shock. It was like I wasn't even thinking straight, and yet when we went to meet with my birth family, you came, and I was like, why didn't I just have her come with me that day? And I don't know why I did. I don't know if it was just because
it was probably a good thing I didn't go. Let's just say that.
It was probably impulse, and maybe it was the best thing for it. But yeah.
Just being honest, guys.
Well, that's good. What about when I called you on the way home and I told you?
Well, you had texted me and said, I'm going to lunch with them. I'm like, okay, so like, are you adopted? Like, and you're like, oh, it's real. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how can you go to lunch with them right now? Like, no. So, but he did call me after lunch and we just were like, this is real. Like, I think we were both still like shocked. Like, we were still just like, this is really happening. I still feel that way. I mean, it's been 2 years. I'm like, this is like, you're really adopted. Like, so.
She usually like uses it as a way to insult me, but it's okay. I still love her.
But I remember like that next day, like after finding out he was adopted, and we were just like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. And that's when he had, like, he used to walk to work, and I just like, hope you find your dad, like Buddy the Elf. Like, I'm like, it's like,
me too.
This applies now, like, to you. So it's just like, hope you find your dad, and the sliding door just shuts. It's like, I don't know. It was just crazy.
Isn't it amazing how so many movies now for us just like, oh, hey, look, there's my story. Cool.
Okay. Also, just a side note. Like, Colby hasn't watched any Disney movies. I just have to bring this up. Like, he has not seen Disney. Like, we have dragged him to Disneyland, like, multiple times. And he's like, I don't get why you guys want to see the characters and, like, do that. And he's like, because he just hasn't seen Disney. And now, like, Cal's watched Disney, like, movies and stuff. He's like, I get it. I'm like, yeah. But as we've watched all these movies, it's like kids finding their parents or being reunited, and Colby's like, maybe that's why I didn't watch Disney. Like, but it's just, yeah.
I did wonder if maybe that was why I never saw a lot of Disney, is because they were afraid that I might pick something up, or I don't know.
I don't know, but he didn't watch Disney. He listened to Weird Al.
It's true. So. It's really sad.
So I just have to put that in there. Like, Disney movies, he just sits there in awe, like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of about you.
You mentioned, like, why are you going to lunch with them? See, I mean, obviously that I should be angry, and that is something that everybody kept asking me, like, why aren't you more angry? Why aren't you angry? And I still don't know why I'm not, or why I wasn't as angry at the beginning, and kind of how it's kind of simmered, or I don't know, pressure cooked. I don't know the words you would use, but it's kind of boiled up since then. And it's not that I'm furious or like I'm throwing things, but I do feel like hurt. I feel frustrated. I feel, and I think it's important that I experience those feelings and go through that, because otherwise I just kind of push it down, and eventually I'm going to blow up and hurt somebody. So it's better to do it now. But yeah, I was thinking about that, because everybody always used to say, well, why aren't you more angry? And so,
yeah.
What was it like watching your spouse look for his family?
It was an interesting process. I mean, Colby's mind was just set on this 24/7. Like, it's all he could think about. And I don't blame him. Like, he would come home and like, honestly, we had no idea where to start. We were just like completely clueless. I'm like, I can barely do my own family tree. Like, and mine's together. But, so like, it was nice to have like these search angels, like Meredith and Reagan, because they would just like send us information, and Colby would try to gather some more. And like, it was just like trying to figure out who went where, and like, I mean, it was just started all over the place. Like, Nebraska's looking good, and just crazy. Like, we had no idea where this was going to end. And so, but it was on his mind 24/7. Like, he was determined. And
what was your biggest concern as you watched that?
I just didn't want him to get hurt. Colby's like the nicest guy. And I just like, I didn't want this to get hurt, like for him to get hurt in the end, because he really does deserve the best. And so I was just worried like it'd be a bad situation, or we wouldn't find him, and we would just not have those answers that he so badly wanted. So
from your perspective, or from what you feel like, what was our reason for doing all this, for trying to find my birth family?
Because because deep down, you always felt like you didn't connect to your adopted family. And I think you always felt like you had family out there. You just didn't really know it till you did the DNA test to confirm it. And so I think it was just to find answers and find out like where you came from. I think everyone has that desire and hope to like, where did I come from? So I remember doing my DNA test and like joking to my mom, like, now's your chance to tell me if I'm adopted. And she's like, you're not adopted. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then like poor Colby, I'm like, I'm so sorry. But it was just also like medical reasons. Like, we had done IVF and we got Cal out of it. But if I would have known like he was adopted and we like didn't know like anything about his family, we would have probably tested our embryos and just like did more with that. And so I think it was just kind of, just to get answers and know, like, who doesn't want to know where they come from?
I remember you asked your mom about that. You're like, now's a good chance. You have your chance to tell me. And she's like, I was in labor with you for however long. And she's like, trust me, I remember every bit of it.
And everyone's like, and you both talk the same and you both look alike. So I'm like,
exactly.
Whatever.
There's no doubt about her and her mom.
So, and my parents did their DNA test and they are my parents. So that's, done deal.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. What was your favorite part of this process as we started looking for my family?
I don't know. It's hard because, I mean, it's crazy that you can just take someone's DNA and, like, there's someone else that, like, matches you out there. And so, I mean, Colby came across, like, a few people that, like, he's related to in some sort of way. And so it was kind of, like, he was just excited. Colby's always been a people person, so it was, like, fun to see him, like, just talk to people. And he already, like, felt like he had that connection to, like, these complete strangers, like, and, but the favorite part was just getting like the confirmation, like, we know who your mom is. So do you remember that day? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we were at my parents and I think we were by their fireplace. I think you were leaning up, like you were either in the chair or the beanbag. And I think Reagan texted or called and was like, I know who your mom is. And we were both just like, what? And I think we both just like, went on to Facebook and were like researching. And then I'm like, yeah, you look like her. Like, this has got to be her. And then like we went home. I remember we were driving and we just got off Bangor. We were sitting at the red light and he's like calling a number. I'm like, who are you calling? He's like, I'm calling my mom or this number. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you just found out. Like, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And luckily, like, the number didn't work. So I'm like, what are you doing? So it was kind of just crazy. Like, it happened so fast. Like, we feel very lucky. Like,
yeah. You know, it's funny. One of the unsung heroes here that we should like be grateful for and recognize, it really is Facebook, because Facebook, if it wasn't for Facebook, so much of this wouldn't be possible, because it gives you, like, you can stalk people so much easier. And that sounds really creepy, but, you know, it really did make a difference, because then we could connect some dots and kind of finish the process. But it was like one of those things that we don't talk about Facebook. We just talk about Ancestry and all the other tools and things like that. But okay. The things that people are like probably most anxious to hear is like, let's talk about the day I met my birth family.
Oh man. So
First, let's talk about the drive out there.
okay. So, well, we had kind of to step back.
Okay.
So, like, that whole week, like, we've been having conversations, like,
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. You're right. I can't pass over that.
Like, with his family. And so, we still couldn't get a hold of his mom, which I think is, like, a tender mercy, because I feel like it was just, like, a break for her and a break for Colby just to kind of digest everything. But in the meantime, like, we had been talking to, like, the family, and I think Colby just, like, had his phone, like, glued to him. Like, oh, so they responded, you know? Like, he was so excited. And then, like, your mom texted you, and it was just like, this is your mom. Like, this is your birth mom. She's texting you. And she was so excited. Like, you were so nervous because you're like, I don't know. Like, does she want to meet me? I don't know. So, yeah, so that drive. So we set a date, and my mom and Hayden, bless their hearts, watched Cal all day. I think it's like the first time we like left Cal all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because we were just like, we can't worry about him. We just got to focus on us and this experience.
Well, and he was only like, what, 18 months at that point?
Yeah. Like,
so he was super young still.
Yeah. So Reagan gave us some advice, and we just drove out there. It's a good hour drive. And so I don't know, we went to Walmart that morning and got flowers to give to her. I remember, because I was just like, we gotta take something. We can't just like show up empty handed. But I mean, it was just like, this is life changing. Like, we are meeting like your mom, like your birth mom. And so Colby was a nervous wreck. I probably should have been driving that day. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know why, but
I was super stressed out.
Yeah. So we like got the address, and it's crazy because we've been out to Twilla like many times. Like, Colby was from there, like Grantsville. So it's just surreal that it was just she was there the whole time. And so we pulled in, and she kind of like lives in a cul-de-sac, and we like pulled up, and then Colby's like, no, I'm gonna flip around to the other side. Like, he was so nervous, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're peeking out the window or the door, like, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, all right, like, we're here, let's do this. There's like no going back. And so we got out of the car, and his sweet mom just came out and just hugged him, and it was so sweet. We had asked beforehand if we could video it, or if I could video it, and so we have it on video. Maybe one day we'll show you, but it was just so sweet. It was just real. Like, I don't know. It was just perfect. Like, it was the best reunion you could have had. So, and they look so much alike. So crazy, right?
36 years in the making, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I can't.
How did you feel when we were heading that way? What was some of the thoughts you had, though?
I mean, I was nervous. I just didn't know what to expect. I'm very shy, like, and I don't, unless I'm very comfortable around you. No, I really am shy. I've come out of my shell in our 16 years of marriage. But, yeah, our anniversary's next week, 16 years. Crazy, huh? So, I was nervous because I was just like, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, we didn't really know who they were or what they really looked like. And I mean, I think we like had stalked everyone's Facebook and Instagram, and I think they did the same with us. And we friended each other that week during the week before we had even met. But it was just nerve wracking. Here we are, just like this new family that we never would have like expected or like thought this was actually going to happen. Like,
well, and we've been married for, 13, 14 years at that point. And now you've just inherited a whole new set of in-laws, right?
Yeah. And that's what was crazy is just, we had all this new family, and like they only had like 3 people to remember, and I think this is what's hard, is like they only had 3 of us to like remember, and we had all these new people, and I'm like, I can't keep track of all these names and like stories, and like I still feel like that to this day. I'm like, I'm trying, but it's just like we got thrown into this family, and so but it's been awesome. So
share with us a little bit more about your relationship with my birth family, comparative to previously.
So Colby's adopted family, I just never really talked to. I just didn't have relationships with them. His sister Lisa, we did, but it's not like I was texting her. I mean, we probably liked each other's stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and that was about it. But even his adopted mom, like if she wanted something, she messaged me on Messenger. Like we just didn't talk. With Colby's birth family, I feel like we talk a lot more. His mom always is texting me, I send her pictures, and I just text his siblings more. So I feel like we have more communication than I did with his adopted family. So
very different.
Very, very different. Before like we even knew Colby was adopted, like I just always felt like something was off with his family. I don't know. Something just didn't seem right, and I didn't know. But I mean, Colby had such a hard time connecting with them, so we didn't do a whole lot with them because it was just a struggle. We didn't want to have to pretend or whatever. Like we were just like, sorry, but it's just different.
What similarities do you see between myself and my birth family?
Colby looks a lot alike them. He looks a lot like his mom, but I mean, he just fits in. Like it's just a natural fit. Besides like the physical looks, but like even like I went and got pedicures with them, and Colby has the weirdest like pinky toe. I'm just like, what? The weirdest pinky toe. And I'm like looking at his mom, like, she has a similar pinky toe. I'm like, that's where you get it from. And even Cal kind of has it. And so it's just kind of like nice to know, like, because Colby his whole life has been told, you look like so and so, and it's all just been a lie. So to like actually like see it and stuff is just, you can just,
it's really cool to
see
that.
cool. Like there's that connection's real. Like there's no doubt about it. So,
and wow. I'm trying to think of other things that I wanted to cover. Is there anything else that you feel like that we should share or we should talk about at this point?
I don't know. It's been life-changing. Like, I never thought going through IVF, I was like, this is rough. This is tough, you know? And I did not see this adoption stuff coming at all. Like, I was totally, I guess, just blindsided. And so it was kind of hurtful just because I felt like, I just felt bad that he'd been lied to all these years, that no one came and told him. And not that Luke, just kidding. Like, not that it was anyone's place to tell him but his parents, but I just can't imagine just lying to someone for that long. Like, I think of Calvin, and I'm like, it took us 10 years to like get him here, and I'm so excited it'll be like, do you know what a miracle you are? And just like share our experience of what I had to go through like to get him here. And even Rigby and Harrison, I was just like, I can't imagine just that lie of, I don't know. Truth always comes out.
My favorite part is that when they ask where do babies come from, I get to take them on a drive and show them the IVF clinic.
How babies are made.
That's where babies are made. That's where you were made.
Yeah.
And I won't be lying, so it works out great.
But I don't know what else. There's something else I was going to say.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well.
But he's just, if it was going to happen to anyone, Colby's the perfect person because he just has a good head on his shoulders, and he just wants to help others. And Colby's just a very special spirit. So very special person. And you are. So, and I just can't imagine, like, if his birth mom had, like, done an abortion. Like, can you imagine life without Colby? Because I can't. So, I'm just so grateful for her willingness, because I can't even imagine having to give up a kid and have no idea where he was every birthday and Mother's Day, and just, yeah, I mean, you never forget that as a mom, you're first. And so I'm so grateful for her keeping him. So,
Well, Mags, thank you so much for joining us and being willing to share some of your perspective. I'm sure you'll be back. I'm sure we'll have other perspective pieces that we want you to share. But thank you so much for
Yep.
being a part of this.
Yep.